Beloved, as the dawn breaks and light begins to pierce the darkness, I decree and declare that this is the day the Lord has made, and you will rejoice and be glad in it. The word of the Lord in Psalm 27 is not just a passage to be read. It is a divine decree, a spiritual weapon, and a covenant promise. When you awaken with this psalm in your spirit, you align your day with heaven's agenda. You begin to see not through the eyes of fear, but through the eyes of faith. The Lord becomes your light and your salvation, your strength, your covering, your fortress. And no enemy, no shadow, no storm can prevail against you. This is the message that transforms mornings into miracles. When you start your day with Psalm 27, you step into the realm of divine confidence and supernatural assurance. You rise not as one overwhelmed by life, but as one who walks in dominion and authority. You speak to your day and command it to yield peace, prosperity, and purpose. You silence every voice of doubt and every whisper of fear, for the Lord is the stronghold of your life. You begin to move in the rhythm of victory, knowing that even if an army encamps around you, your heart shall not fear, because the Lord of hosts is with you. Today, I invite you to let this psalm reprogram your mindset, recalibrate your focus, and restore your confidence in God's faithfulness. As you meditate on these verses, let your faith be ignited, your courage renewed, and your spirit fortified. You are not stepping into an ordinary day. You are stepping into divine alignment, into heavenly protection, into the light of God's glory. Psalm 27 is your declaration that no matter what arises, the Lord is your light, your salvation, and your victory. Start your day with this revelation and watch how everything around you begins to shift in your favor. When David declared, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" He was not merely reciting poetry, he was issuing a decree from the depths of revelation. In those words lies the posture of a warrior, the confession of one who has seen the hand of God deliver him time and time again. To say that the Lord is your light means you have chosen divine illumination over human interpretation. You have decided to let His word be the lamp to your feet and the light to your path. It means you refuse to walk in the darkness of confusion, fear, or despair, because the brilliance of His truth dispels every shadow. When the Lord is your light, you no longer stumble over the uncertainties of life. You move with clarity, precision, and divine direction. His light reveals the path of destiny, exposes the traps of the enemy, and unveils the beauty of your purpose. When you rise each morning and declare that the Lord is your light, you are declaring that no form of darkness has authority over your life. Darkness may attempt to cloud your mind, to weigh down your emotions, to whisper lies of defeat, but light always wins. The presence of light automatically eliminates the presence of darkness. As long as you carry His light within you, you are never lost, never forsaken, never without guidance. That light represents revelation knowledge. It represents divine wisdom that empowers you to see beyond your natural circumstances. You begin to understand that fear is a distortion of sight. It magnifies the problem and minimizes the power of God. But when light enters, you see clearly. You see God's hand moving behind the scenes. You see promises instead of problems, solutions instead of struggles. David didn't just stop at light. He also said, "The Lord is my salvation." Salvation is more than deliverance from sin. It is total victory in every area of life. It is safety, restoration, and divine rescue. To declare that the Lord is your salvation is to affirm that He is your rescuer, your protector, your redeemer, and your defender. It is to acknowledge that your help does not come from human systems or fragile alliances. Your help comes from the one who holds the universe in His hand. Every time you say, "The Lord is my salvation," you reinforce a covenant of deliverance over your life. You remind yourself that no matter what battles you face, the Lord has already secured your victory. Fear loses its grip because salvation is the assurance that God has already made a way. But fear thrives in uncertainty. It multiplies in the soil of doubt. But faith flourishes in revelation. When you know that the Lord is your light and salvation, fear has nowhere to live. It can knock on the door of your mind, but it cannot enter the heart of one who knows their covenant rights. This is why David asked, "Whom shall I fear?" He was denying the reality of challenges. He was declaring his authority over them. When you start your day with this mindset, you dismantle fear before it even forms. You silence the threats before they can take shape. You look at adversity and say, "You will not define me because the Lord is my light and my salvation." Fear is not just an emotion. It is a spirit that must be confronted and cast down. When you open your mouth to declare this verse, you confront that spirit head on with the power of truth. To walk in divine confidence means to know that you are never walking alone. The Lord is not a distant observer. He is your strength, your fortress, your strong tower. When David said, "The Lord is the strength of my life," he was identifying the source of his endurance. Strength here means more than physical might. It means stability, resilience, and inner fortitude. It means the Lord sustains your will when your flesh feels weak, and he anchors your emotions when life feels unstable. His strength is what keeps you standing when everything around you shakes. His strength infuses your spirit with supernatural endurance. You don't just survive, you thrive under pressure, because his power is made perfect in your weakness. When you wake up each morning and align your spirit with Psalm 27:1, you are activating divine boldness. Fearlessness is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it through faith. It is the ability to look at the unknown and say, "Even there, my God reigns." It is the courage to face what others flee from because you know who stands beside you. This confidence does not come from pride, it flows from covenant awareness. When you know who your God is, you also know who you are. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are a vessel of divine authority. Every step you take is backed by heavenly power. Every word you speak carries the weight of divine decree. When the Lord is your light and your salvation, you no longer live reacting to life, you begin commanding it. Light represents clarity, direction, and revelation, while salvation represents safety, victory, and redemption. Together, they produce an unshakable confidence that destroys fear. This confidence is not arrogance, it is assurance. It is the posture of one who knows that God cannot fail. The more you meditate on this truth, the more your perspective shifts. Problems shrink in the presence of revelation. Giants lose their power when you see through the eyes of light. You begin to understand that every challenge is an opportunity for God to demonstrate his glory through you. Every obstacle becomes a stage for divine power. When you walk in divine confidence, your words change, your posture changes, your decisions change. You no longer approach life with hesitation. You advance with conviction. To walk fearlessly in faith means to make declarations of victory before the battle even begins. David did not wait for circumstances to change before he spoke. He spoke, and circumstances had to align. You must learn to do the same. Speak light into your day before the sun rises. Declare salvation over your household before trouble knocks. Affirm your strength before weariness sets in. Every morning decree, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" And watch how your inner world transforms. The moment you declare it, angels are activated, darkness is dispelled, and your spiritual atmosphere shifts in your favor. The word of God on your lips is as powerful as it was when it first left his mouth. Divine confidence is cultivated through consistency. It is not a one-time declaration. It is a daily decision. Every day you choose to believe that God is bigger than your fear, stronger than your struggle, and more faithful than your doubt. Every day you remind yourself that you are not moving through life alone. The presence of God surrounds you like a shield. The same light that led Israel through the wilderness still guides you today. Think salvation that delivered David from his enemies still covers you today. The same strength that raised Christ from the dead still empowers you today. When you internalize that truth, fear loses its voice and faith takes command. The Lord being your light also means that your mind is illuminated by divine understanding. You don't think like the world, you think like heaven. You process situations through the lens of victory, not victimhood. You discern beyond appearances and respond with wisdom. When the light of revelation floods your spirit, deception cannot take root. The lies of the enemy are exposed before they can bear fruit. You become spiritually alert, emotionally stable, and mentally sharp. You live not by sight, but by insight. This is the secret of walking in fearless faith, seeing what others cannot see, knowing what others do not know, and believing what others find impossible. When the Lord is your salvation, you also walk in divine rest. You don't strive to earn victory, you operate from it. You move with assurance that whatever comes your way, God has already prepared a way out. You don't panic in the storm because you know who calms the sea. You don't crumble under pressure because you know who holds your tomorrow. Divine confidence bursts peace, and peace empowers clarity. When fear is broken, faith becomes unstoppable. When you know the Lord is your light and salvation, you stop running from challenges and start running toward destiny. The same spirit that empowered David to face Goliath now empowers you to confront every mountain in your life with unshakable confidence, unwavering courage, and divine assurance. When David declared, "One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life," he revealed a secret known only to those who understand the power of divine presence. In this verse lies the heartbeat of a person who has discovered that peace, power, and stability do not come from possessions, positions, or people. They flow from abiding in the presence of God. To dwell in his presence means to live consciously aware of his nearness, to carry his glory into every moment, and to be rooted in the security of his love. David understood that real strength is not drawn from external circumstances, but from the internal communion between the human spirit and the Spirit of God. When you live from that sacred space, chaos cannot uproot you, fear cannot control you, and anxiety cannot dominate your day. The desire to dwell in God's presence must become your greatest pursuit. In a world full of distractions where busyness has become a badge of honor and noise surrounds every waking hour, the call to dwell is a call to stillness. It is the invitation to step away from the noise of the world and enter the atmosphere of heaven. When you dwell in his presence, your priorities shift. What once seemed urgent becomes irrelevant, and what once seemed impossible becomes effortless. The presence of God recalibrates your perspective. It cleanses your mind of fear, your heart of heaviness, and your spirit of confusion. You begin to live from a place of divine alignment, where heaven's agenda becomes your agenda, and the peace of God governs your emotions like a river flowing through your soul. David did not say, "I visit the house of the Lord." He said, "I dwell there." There is a difference between visitation and habitation. Visitation is temporary. It brings moments of inspiration, but not transformation. Habitation is continual. It becomes a lifestyle of intimacy, consistency, and communion. Many people experience fleeting encounters with God, but never learn to abide. To dwell means to live in such close proximity to God that his presence saturates your thoughts, speech, and decisions. It means your atmosphere becomes charged with divine awareness. You don't have to wait for a worship service to feel his glory. You carry it within you. You don't have to search for peace. Peace lives in you. The secret to stability in unstable times is habitation, living in the presence of the one who never changes. To dwell in the house of the Lord means to build your life around his presence. The house represents not just a physical temple, but a spiritual dwelling where his presence abides. When you prioritize his presence, everything else aligns. Your relationships gain harmony, your work becomes purposeful, and your emotions become steady. You begin to operate in divine rhythm instead of worldly chaos. The more you dwell in his presence, the more you resemble him. His thoughts become your thoughts. His peace becomes your peace. His strength becomes your strength. You find yourself moving from striving to resting, from worrying to worshiping, from reacting to responding with wisdom. The presence of God becomes the anchor of your soul, holding you steady when the winds of life attempt to shake you. David said he desired to behold the beauty of the Lord. This is not just about gazing at something external. It is about perceiving the nature of God in a way that transforms you. To behold his beauty means to see him in his majesty, his mercy, his holiness, and his faithfulness. When you behold his beauty, your mind is renewed and your heart is healed. You stop seeing through the lens of your problems and start seeing through the lens of his promises. The more you behold him, the more you become like him. This is the mystery of transformation. The presence you dwell in is the presence you reflect. The longer you stay in his presence, the more his character, peace, and power radiate through your life. In the presence of God, every burden lifts, every fear dissolves, and every wound begins to heal. His presence is not just a place of worship, it is a sanctuary of restoration. It is where clarity returns, direction is revealed, and strength is renewed. When you dwell in his presence daily, your mornings are no longer filled with anxiety, they are filled with expectancy. You wake up knowing that no matter what the day brings, you are not walking alone. His presence becomes your covering, your shield, your secret place. That is why David could say, for in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. The presence of God is your hiding place. It shields you from spiritual attacks, emotional turmoil, and mental warfare. When you learn to dwell there, you are untouchable by the storms that rage outside. Dwelling in the presence of God is also the source of true wisdom. Divine wisdom is not learned through intellect. It is imparted through intimacy. When you sit in his presence, he reveals mysteries, downloads strategies, and gives insight into situations you could never understand on your own. His voice becomes clearer, your decisions become sharper, and your path becomes straighter. Many are running from place to place seeking answers, yet the answer is found in stillness before the Lord. When you learn to dwell, you stop chasing and start receiving. You stop striving and start flowing. The wisdom that flows from his presence empowers you to make choices that align with your purpose and bring peace to your soul. To dwell in God's presence is to cultivate an atmosphere of worship wherever you are. Worship is not confined to songs or services. It is a posture of the heart. It is the continual acknowledgement that God is worthy of all your attention, affection, and adoration. When you live with a heart of worship, you invite the presence of God into every area of your life. Your home becomes a sanctuary, your workplace becomes a mission field, and your words become instruments of grace. Worship invites the glory of God to rest upon you. And when his glory rests on you, everything around you begins to transform. Problems that once intimidated you now become opportunities for his power to be displayed. Circumstances that once overwhelmed you now become platforms for his faithfulness to shine. Dwelling in his presence also brings supernatural peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of divine order. It is the stillness that remains even in the midst of storms. When you abide in God's presence, peace becomes your default state. You don't need everything to be perfect to feel at rest. You are at rest because the Prince of Peace dwells within you. This peace surpasses understanding. It guards your heart and mind. It allows you to move through life with grace and composure, knowing that everything is working together for your good. It silences the voices of worry and amplifies the whispers of faith. It keeps you grounded when the world shakes because you are anchored in the unchanging presence of God. David understood that dwelling in God's presence was the secret to his victories. Every battle he won, every song he wrote, every victory he celebrated was birthed from that place of communion. The anointing that destroyed yokes flowed from that secret place. The courage that faced Goliath was forged in the solitude of worship. When you dwell in God's presence, you become spiritually fortified. You develop an inner strength that cannot be explained by natural means. The world may look at you and wonder how you remain calm, how you keep believing, how you continue to rise after every setback. But those who dwell know. They know that when you live from the presence of God, you draw from an infinite source of power that never runs dry. To dwell also means to remain consistent. It is not about a moment of emotional intensity, but a lifestyle of intentional intimacy. It means you guard your atmosphere, protect your peace, and prioritize time with God. You make his presence your priority, not your backup plan. You start your day in communion and carry that awareness throughout the day. When you dwell continually, your heart becomes sensitive to his leading, your mind becomes attuned to his voice, and your steps become ordered by his spirit. You no longer need external validation or worldly approval because your identity is affirmed in his presence. In that sacred dwelling place, you rediscover who you are and remember whose you are. You walk with confidence, speak with authority, and live with purpose because the presence of the Lord is your habitation and your hiding place. When David declared, "I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart." He revealed the posture of a soul that refuses to surrender to despair. These words are a declaration of unwavering faith, spoken not in the absence of trials, but in the midst of them. David had faced betrayal, warfare, isolation, and delay, yet he chose to believe that God's goodness would still manifest. This is the essence of unshakable hope, the conviction that no matter what happens, God is still good, still faithful, and still working on your behalf. To believe to see means to expect the manifestation of what God has promised, even when there is no visible evidence. It means to stand firm in faith when sight contradicts your confession, and to hold on when everything in you feels like letting go. There are moments in life when faith becomes the only thing keeping you from fainting. The pressures of life, the waiting seasons, the unanswered prayers, they can drain your strength if you focus only on what you see. But when you choose to believe to see, you activate a higher dimension of vision. Natural sight may reveal the obstacle, but faith sight reveals the outcome. Faith does not deny reality. It declares a greater reality. It speaks what God has spoken even when circumstances say otherwise. When David said he would have fainted unless he believed, he acknowledged the battle between despair and determination. Every believer must face that battle. You will have moments when hope feels distant and strength feels depleted, but that is when belief must rise. Faith becomes your oxygen when the atmosphere of life feels suffocating. It sustains you when the natural mind cannot comprehend the delay. It becomes the force that keeps you moving forward when quitting feels easier. To believe, to see, is to anchor your expectations in the nature of God rather than in the nature of your situation. The goodness of the Lord is not seasonal, it is eternal. It doesn't fluctuate with conditions or fade with time. When you believe in his goodness, you align yourself with his unchanging character. Even when life feels harsh, you remind yourself that his goodness is still at work behind the scenes. Sometimes his goodness delays what you desire to protect you from what would destroy you. Sometimes his goodness redirects you from what you thought you wanted to what you truly need. Believing to see the goodness of the Lord means trusting that every closed door is a divine redirection. Every detour is part of the design, and every delay is loaded with purpose. It means you hold on to hope when logic tells you to give up, because you know that God's goodness will always have the final word. There is power in expectation. Faith without expectation is like a seed without soil. It cannot grow. Expectation positions you for manifestation. When you believe to see, you start living in anticipation rather than anxiety. You begin to speak like one who knows something good is coming. You wake up every morning saying, "Today I will see the goodness of the Lord." You stop waiting for external proof to feel joy and start celebrating before the breakthrough arrives. This kind of faith attracts divine activity. Heaven responds to expectation. Angels move when they hear faith-filled words. The atmosphere shifts when your heart is filled with hope. Your belief becomes a magnet for miracles. The moment you choose to believe, God begins to orchestrate events in your favor. Things you thought were delayed suddenly align, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. David said, "Wait on the Lord." Waiting is not passive, it is active trust. It is not idleness, but inner stillness. It means you continue to serve, to pray, to believe, even when there is no visible progress. Waiting refines your faith. It teaches you to depend on the timing of God rather than the timeline of man. In the waiting, God is strengthening your heart, developing your patience, and building your character. The word wait in Hebrew implies binding together with strength. It is as if your spirit intertwines with the strength of God while you wait. You are not just standing still. You are being renewed, refueled, and reinforced. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting becomes the gym of faith, where endurance is built and courage is fortified. You emerge from the waiting season not weaker, but stronger, wiser, and more resilient. To be of good courage means to choose bravery even when fear feels justified. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it. It is standing in the storm and declaring, "My God is faithful." It is refusing to retreat when the battle intensifies. Courage comes from knowing that you are backed by heaven. When God strengthens your heart, he does not remove the challenge, he equips you to overcome it. The strength he imparts is not physical, it is spiritual, emotional, and mental. It is the fortitude to stand when others crumble, to believe when others doubt, and to continue pressing forward when others turn back. When you believe to see the goodness of the Lord, courage becomes your constant companion. It enables you to face uncertainty with peace and adversity with purpose. Believing to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living also means expecting God to move not just in eternity, but here and now. It is the assurance that you don't have to wait until heaven to experience his blessings. God desires to demonstrate his goodness in your life today, in your family, your finances, your health, your destiny. Many people postpone their faith, saying one day God will bless them, one day he will heal them, one day he will deliver them. But David said, in the land of the living, that means here in this lifetime, you will see his goodness manifested. Faith brings the promises of tomorrow into the reality of today. It collapses the distance between what God has spoken and what you experience. When you believe to see, you pull the future into the present through the power of expectation and decree. Every test of faith is an opportunity to prove that God's word is greater than your feelings. The enemy's greatest weapon is discouragement, but your greatest defense is faith. When you refuse to faint, you frustrate the enemy. He cannot defeat a believer who keeps believing. Your belief is not just for you. It's a statement to the spiritual realm that you trust the one who called you. It sends a message that no matter what it looks like, you will not bow to fear, you will not surrender to doubt, and you will not accept defeat as your destiny. Belief stabilizes your heart when life destabilizes your circumstances. It keeps you standing when everything around you shakes. It turns waiting rooms into worship rooms and delays into divine appointments. Believing to see also cultivates gratitude. When your heart is fixed on God's goodness, you start recognizing His hand in places you once overlooked. You see blessings in disguise, lessons in loss, and grace in the grind. Gratitude fuels endurance because it reminds you that if God has done it before, He can do it again. Every testimony of the past becomes a prophecy for the future. When you rehearse His goodness, you reinforce your faith. You remind your soul that God is still able. This posture of gratitude keeps your spirit open to receive more. God entrusts greater things to hearts that stay thankful in the little things. Belief anchored in gratitude becomes an unstoppable force. It keeps you expecting, rejoicing, and receiving even in uncertain seasons. David's declaration was not one of denial, but determination. He chose to see the goodness of God even when surrounded by darkness. That same spirit must rise within you. You must believe that goodness will find you, favor will follow you, and mercy will uphold you. You must declare that what looks like a setback is a setup for a greater manifestation. You must remind yourself that every challenge is a chapter in your victory story. Believing to see the goodness of the Lord is not naive optimism, it is prophetic vision. It is the ability to see beyond the storm and anticipate the sunrise. It is what separates those who faint from those who finish. When you walk in this revelation, your hope becomes unshakable, your heart becomes steadfast, and your spirit becomes unstoppable. You move from despair to destiny, from waiting to winning, from believing to seeing.